Welcome, Samridhi. A pleasure to see you after a fair bit of time. Although we do talk on the phone occasionally, I'm seeing you on a Zoom call after a long time. Samridhi, I wanted to first ask, for the benefit of people who will watch this, what are you doing now?
So first, hi, sir. It's always good to see you, and I'm always the happiest when I see you. Currently, I am pursuing Masters in Economics and Finance at the Barcelona School of Economics in Barcelona, which is under the University of Pompeu Fabra. And I am in my first semester now, and as of now, it's going well and good. Enjoying and not enjoying both together.
Yeah, I know, but I'm quite sure Barcelona is one of the top schools in economics, especially in Europe. So, Samridhi, can you give us a bit of your background? Like, where do you come from? Where you did your undergraduate education, etc.?
Yes, so I applied for different places in India, but I really wanted to go to Delhi University because uh, like my parents really wanted me to go there, and it was a good push from them because I'm from Cuttack, Odisha, and you usually don't see many people, especially girls, going to Delhi and studying. So I'm very grateful that my parents were more ambitious than me to go to DU. So I pursued my undergrad in economics honors at Daulat Ram College in Delhi University, and my 3 years at DU, I would say it introduced me to people from different walks of life. I think it's very important that a public university should teach you that, and DU did teach me that. And most importantly, I was introduced to what economics is, because the rigor at Delhi University of all the 6 semesters uh, is quite intense. But I would say my professors were quite nice in the university, and overall, the experience of learning economics and also interacting with people from different states for the first time, it was overall a very good experience to look back to.
So, which college was this at DU, Samridhi?
Daulat Ram College.
You had Daulat Ram College, okay.
Yes.
After DU, you applied to the Meghnad Desai Academy of Economics. So, what made you
Yes.
apply to the academy? In the sense that, how did you hear about us? What was the thinking behind it? And then a bit about the process of joining the academy. And then later, perhaps I'll ask you about your actual experience in the academy.
So again, I think my journey to all these different places has been more of not planning it in advance, but it's just it happened. So MDAE also happened, I would say. One of my father's friends, he's a professor, and I was very confused whether I should do a master's in India or abroad, or whether I should just do a 1 year integrated sort of program where I can be introduced to economics again from a more applied perspective, because I was very much looking for that. And he told me, why don't you apply to Meghnad Desai Academy? It's this one institute in India which gives you a post-grad diploma in economics. And it will also give you a lot more industry and the world experience. So then I looked up and I found the curriculum to be really good. I think that was the first thing I spotted on the MDA website, that it was not the rote learning curriculum that we usually have in most of the places in India. But it was I saw class participation and projects and assignments, and that seemed so interesting to me. I said, okay, I didn't know that this kind of approach also exists, to be honest. And then when I started applying for MBA, I really liked the process. That it was the first time I actually sat and wrote a very small SOP on, or they gave me a question to write on what I think about inequality and growth. And I actually spent days on thinking about it. Whereas I had development economics in both my semesters in DU, but I never really thought about those concepts other than from an examination perspective, I would say. So, and then I gave an entrance examination. So that entire process made me rethink the education system, I would say. The first thing, that okay, only if we had these kind of approaches also to get students to a place where the first step of assessment is how are these students even thinking. I
Yeah.
think that was a very important process. And then my interview with Professor Shagata and Professor Sandhya ma'am, it was I think the first interview of my life, and I was dreading. I was really scared, but they made me so comfortable in asking me questions. And I remember for that interview, I ended up reading two books because I was so scared. But it turned out to be really good. In fact, it became more of a conversation for me. And that made me feel very comfortable with my introduction to professors at MDAE.
That's lovely to hear, because that's really what we think we are, sets us apart from many other economic teaching institutes or universities and colleges in India. So, Samriddhi, how was your experience? You said that your first interaction with the professors was a pleasant surprise. You relaxed in the interview. How was your experience in the actual course, both in terms of the interactions with the teachers? Second is the course itself, what did you, find interesting in it? And I know that yours was that batch which was, in the pandemic. So a lot of it was online, your education. So how was engagement despite those restrictions?
So I think I initially thought that COVID would become a big barrier to this learning experience at MDA, but surprisingly, it did not become, except for the fact that we didn't see each other in person. Um, First thing, I would start with that in MDA, I learned how to learn. And that was my biggest takeaway from MDA if I add up all my small takeaways. And moving on to my small takeaways, first thing, I found the space to be very comfortable as a student. That I was pushed to ask questions. I learned how to ask questions. I was never taught what to ask, but I was taught how to ask. And that became because we always think whether this question is correct or not correct, especially in online setting where you have 50 other students and you have these all top shot professors teaching you. But every question became an important question in the class. And at MDA, I learned that I can also ask questions. So I built confidence in that 1 year, despite being a student in that online process. Second, COVID was a very tough time for all of us. And the empathy from the professors and overall the administration to speak about if something is not right, or, if you want the classes to be shifted because a lot of things were happening with everyone, that empathy was very comforting for us. So with these two things, MBA became a comfortable journey. Now, how it became challenging was that at MBA, with every course and with every professor, I learned that teaching need not be standardized. So there was a very non-standardized way of learning with all the professors, because everyone brought a different perspective of teaching in the class. So I was taught that, okay, I can be taught in different ways. And with the fact that we had class participation, projects, research assignments, class discussions, I moved away from the rote learning system to a holistic way of learning. And I am very thankful that I actually embraced that in MDA, because I feel it is always a two-sided relationship that you share with any institute. It's not just what the university or institute can give you, but what can you take from it and give back to it.
Yeah.
So I made sure I was very active in my class. I would ask more questions. And I, in fact, went on to developing relationships with my professors, on speaking to them, what more can I read on this, or just having small phone call discussions. And the fact that all of you there, being very busy people, were still there for us to speak to us on any topic or educate us more about outside the class, I felt I remember telling my parents all the time, oh, you know, I had this conversation and I learned this today, despite whatever was taught in the class. And I think online mode of learning then did not become a barrier for us. Um, and to start on with what I learned in MDA, I think the list can be endless. But to pick on the important things, I would say I learned how to critically think because that happened during our class sessions. I learned how to write. I think as an economics student, all we do is math all the time, so we forget how to write. And because every subject had a writing assignment, and we had to even present what we have written. So it's not just writing from all over the internet, but also what have you written and can you explain that to me? So that made a huge difference in the way I could read research papers and write from them. Data. I think I became the most comfortable with data during my macroeconomics classes because our professor, Shantanu Sengupta, every Friday would give us presentation days. And every Saturday, we would get those huge data sets. I was introduced to RBI database, different fiscal databases, just to learn how to see this data, how to clean it, and how to present it in the class. So while in that moment we all were terrified and exhausted, looking back, I think it was one of the best data learning experiences for me. For econometrics classes, Sandhya ma'am always made sure that she would get different kinds of data and help us visualize econometrics through this data. I think that I am able to apply here now at BSc when I'm studying econometrics. I keep visualizing the data and then the theory.
Yeah.
So these learnings that I had from MDA, I can apply here at BSc now. So overall, my experience at MDA and then writing thesis, I think that was also one of the best parts of the process, that we would have dissertation meetings with our supervisor. We learned how to apply. Now, whatever we've learned throughout the coursework, how do you apply it in thinking of a research question and presenting the methodology and your results? So overall, my experience at MDA was very holistic despite the COVID fiasco. And if I were to repeat it again, I would, but yes, please in person.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think the personal touch which all the professors and
Yes.
everybody brings to the thing is something we hear from students over the years. Another thing of the MDE experience means this is the classroom part, but a lot of people from outside, from industry, from government, from multilateral agencies come and speak to students. And then we have the mentorship program, right, where each student is assigned a mentor who's supposed to be that student's academic friend through the year. So how is the mentorship program? What was this entire outsiders coming in? Can you give us a sense of MDA outside the immediate classroom?
Yes. So, okay, first thing, after two years, I never thought I would be speaking to my mentor like this on an interview. So yes, you can see how good the mentorship program is. But I think the first time they told us that we would be getting a mentor, I actually looked up what it is to have a mentor in academic space. I never knew of that. And then, yeah, I was very luckily assigned to be your mentee. And I remember writing a long email introducing myself to you. And I was a bit nervous because, again, I didn't know how to talk about, okay, these are the things I want to discuss. And can I talk about this? Or do you have time? But of course, you made me the most comfortable to approach you. But I think that was there across all my other peers in the class.
Yeah.
Uh, the fact that you have a mentor who can guide you throughout the year on, okay, this is what is there in the classroom, but I'm confused what to do outside. And because we were assigned mentors from different industries, and also we were allowed to speak to the administration on what if I'm not able to relate with this mentor on what I want to do, can that be changed? Can I have someone else? And they were always open to that. So I think we were at the center of what they wanted to do, But again, as I say, it's always a two-sided relationship. So the fact that I enjoyed phone calls so much, where we had conversations not just on economics, but life and philosophy and everything. So I think it is very important to maintain that personal relationship, not just while you are at MDA, but also outside MDAE, because you don't learn only the academics of your you just don't learn only the academic part of this process. You also learn how to grow as a person, because it's the first time when you enter the real world, and the first time when you interact with bosses and people, colleagues. So how do you even speak to them? How do you present your ideas and thoughts? I think this kind of confidence was built, for me at least, through all our phone calls we had. And I would say it happened for others as well, because we would always speak to each other on how their interactions was with their mentors. So this program of mentorship is definitely the star highlight of MDA, I would say. And it's not just the mentor, but even the professors
Yeah.
would help you outside the classroom, of whether even for applications to universities or different jobs. So I think this overall approach towards ask whatever you want to, we are there for you, made my journey very beautiful at MDA.
That's
And
lovely to
we
hear.
had and we had people from industries come over. I think it was a range of people that came to deliver talks for us. We had a data scientist from Bloomberg teaching us how to just, play around with data. People from pharmaceutical industry, people from the government on how what it means to work as an economic student in these different sectors. I think it's so important that we as economic students don't know how our subject can be applied to in the different sectors. We know it can be, but we don't know how it is done. So I think MBA also bridged that gap of understanding where my discipline can be applied to in this world.
And Samriddhi, I know you've always been interested in the applied part of economics, although I've always known that you're very strong at theory as well. So after MDA, a lot of, there are, we have a very strong placements uh, process, and a lot of students join the financial sector, data science companies, private industry. You chose to join a think tank, the Center for Policy Research. So, what was your experience at the Center for Policy Research? What did you work on? What new experiences did you get there?
So I always knew that I wanted to work in some research space, but I didn't know what kind of research space. And that I was introduced to again through MDA, where we would also know about, okay, there is a culture of working in think tanks as an economic student. And CPR, Center for Policy Research, is of course the topmost think tank of this country. When I joined CPR, I think a night before my joining, I told myself that I'm going to enter this institute with an open mind again, and now see what this place has to offer me. And I think CPR became a turning point in my life as a researcher. I worked with the president there, Yamini Iyer, on different projects. I was a part of the State Capacity Initiative, which was a team of non-economists. So I think as someone who studied economics for 4 years, to go to an institute where you discuss anthropology, sociology, political science, and how does this apply to your policy analysis, it was again a very new world for me. But the fact that I was very open and curious to learn really helped me go through that journey and learn the most from them. The fact that I was in a room where I remember once I was in this meeting where anthropologists, sociologists, political scientists, social scientists, and all. I was actually looking at people, and I was like someone studying international relations, and I was like, how does all of this apply to economics? I think that's what I learned at CPR. my work for the 2 years that I was there, I worked. My primary work was on government budgets, where I worked with Yamini Iyer and Ratan Roy on understanding what it means to dive into the government budget data. And I remember you had given us a presentation on how to read budget. And on the first day, when Yamini told me that now we will start working on the budget, I went back to the presentation just to recall again everything that I was taught at MDAE. So, other than that, I was a part of the rural economy where I worked with Meghla Krishnamurthy, Harish Damodaran, and Yamini Iyer on understanding what the data is telling us about the rural economy. But from them, I also learned what the data is not telling us. So I never knew these two sides to working with data. What is it telling us and what is it not telling us? And because these were people with a lot of field experience and sitting in different meetings and understanding what it is going on amongst different researchers, I got to know how to look at data and like that. And because most of my work was quantitative, so that's where I became more cautious of how to read what we consider as the holy grail of analyzing any policy these days. Other than that, I also worked on the evolution of statistical system in India with Pramit Bhattacharya, and that was a completely different work for me because it was archival analysis and reading reports and more of the news, current news, and then compiling them together on what this is telling us. So working on both qualitative and quantitative side of research, I think it was just the perfect blend of understanding how research should be done, not just in economics, but overall, how should we approach research for policy making? Because policy making is a process where the heart of it is the people. But if you don't understand the people through these different disciplines, then how are you even thinking about them through these analytical exercises? So CPR, I would say, is a table where you have all these different people sit together, right from the bureaucrats to professors to the early career researchers to senior researchers, thinking together on one question, and we would have debates on it for days and days. But the fact that it was a very safe space for anyone to put forward their thoughts, again, I learned that in this institute. And I feel very grateful to be a part of CPR, always.
Thank you, Samridhi. I think that was a really, really nice overview of your journey so far. You're now at Barcelona, all the learnings from MDAE, and then you're from MDAE, you went to CPR and your learnings there. I hope you keep flourishing and going forward. And it's always a pleasure to chat with you. So thank you again
Thank
for
you
doing
so much,
this.
sir. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, because I think MDA again has made me so confident of my journey that, okay, I had to think of what have I even done in life and to speak of it. It's a big privilege, especially to speak to your mentor. We started this journey 3 years back.
Yes, yes. And I think one of the, the mentorship becomes friendship at some point of time, and it
Yes.
continues after students have left MDE as well. We remain in touch, right?
Yes.
Thank
That
you.
is the best part.
Thank you, Samridhi. Thank you very much.